All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to Talking Buffalo. Thank you to everyone, whether you're watching this, whether you're listening to the show. Appreciate you all. Today is Tuesday. That means, as always, I'm joined by my good buddy, writer, podcaster, sports media personality, and already to a busy start to the week. And it's only going to get busier for my man, Joe Yerdon. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
We're doing good. We're recording this on Monday, and it's already been a busy Monday. It's something else.
Yeah. So let's see. So far, you've covered. Again, we're taping this so Monday. It's around roughly 6 p.m. when we're taping this. You've already been to Sabres practice, post practice stuff.
No practice today. They called off practice.
Oh, did they really?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, nothing for sneaky reasons. They're just
Okay. Well, still,
anyway,
you recorded Maintenance Day podcast with Lance, and literally, like, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes before we started recording, the Sabres have actually made a trade. They acquired Riley Stillman from Vancouver for prospect Josh Bloom. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Plenty of Sabres stuff. You know what? We're going to give the Sabres respect today. I feel like they've been playing good for a while now, and it's kind of like on this podcast has been an afterthought. That's acceptable when the Bills are playing, when the NFL season's going on. Yeah. But the NFL, the Bills have been done for a while.
But, that's me. Anyway, sorry.
No, man, this team's playing really good, and I kind of wait 40 minutes every episode to even start talking about them. They deserve more respect. They're going to get it today on Talking Buffalo. And again, thank everybody for watching, for listening. I appreciate you all. Sunday. So while you were covering the game, a big Sabres victory over Washington, I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the game, but I also was flipping back and forth to boxing on a Sunday afternoon. Saudi Arabia, Jake Paul. I got to give the guy credit. Listen, I got to give him credit, Joe. He has managed. Well, look, I tune in to watch him lose. Just like for years, Floyd Mayweather, I would tune in all of his fights on pay-per-view because I finally wanted somebody to shut him up. Never happened because he, hasn't lost a fight. But Jake Paul's got that effect. He gets under your skin. He talks so much shit. He just looks like his face is just punchable. Can't stand the dude. So I watched the fight Sunday, man, and he did lose, which was pretty cool. Look, they're Tyson or not Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury, wasn't the greatest exhibition of. Got to be honest with you, man, it was kind of it was pretty entertaining. So while you were doing your post-game writing, I was watching Jake Paul lose, and it was more fun than I wanted to admit. My son and I watched the fight, actually, and last rounder and a half or so, dude, I was kind of on the edge of my couch, man. It was pretty entertaining. I got to give him credit.
Is the guy that he fought an actual fighter, or is it just another guy that he dragged off the street?
He's a fighter.
Okay.
He's not an MMA guy. His brother, of course, is Tyson Fury, the heavyweight champion of the world. And he fought a bunch of tomato cans, but he's a real fighter. I don't know what the odds were going in. I know Jake Paul was the betting favorite, but anyway, it was
I don't know, man. I grew up a huge boxing fan.
Me too.
Love boxing. And the whole thing now where it's like like washed up athletes getting in the ring fighting each other and celebrities fighting each other, and now it's it's YouTube guys. Like, I mean, I'll give him credit, he takes it serious. Sure. I just everything about it is just basically like, here's YouTube guy, buy it. Like his fans will be like, we'll watch it, we'll watch him win. Or people like me that are just like, I don't give two rats asses about Jake Paul. Like, please, somebody beat him into the ground. Like, that's but like, I don't like that. That's what boxing is now, because MMA is taken over. Boxing hasn't been interesting in a long time. A good fighter comes along and he's got nobody to go against. Like, that's the whole problem. But man, why the freaking Paul brother? And like, Logan Paul's in friggin' WWE, so he can't get away from these idiots.
You're 100%. Listen, the quality of boxing sucks now. And so does the marketing of the sport, unfortunately, and it's sad, horrible. But Jake Paul is probably one of the, maybe after Tyson Fury, he might be the second most well-known boxer in the world, which is ridiculous. But yeah, man, dude, I grew up on boxing and loved it. I would say, actually, as a kid, baseball was my favorite sport. We've talked about this before. I grew up a big Yankees fan, still am a Yankees fan, but I was obsessed with baseball. Boxing was probably my second favorite sport as a kid. I think I was blessed. And you're not much younger than me, so you were around the same era or two, or right afterwards. But like
Mhm.
the middleweight era was Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran and Hagler and Hearns, and
Incredible.
then a lot of great heavyweight fighters too. It was
Mhm.
great. That was real boxing, man. I loved it. It's a joke nowadays. But anyway, it was good to see him lose, although he still
Yeah,
was talking shit even after he lost.
of course.
He's a good villain. I got to give him that. He's
Yeah,
an okay boxer, but he's a great villain. He makes
yeah.
you want to pay your money. Well, I didn't pay any money, but a lot of people did pay money to watch him lose. So good on them. By the way, so
Yeah.
we go ahead.
Yeah, I get taken advantage of that. Like that's a good thing. And if like, hey, if you're gonna keep winning the fights,
It's kind of like
I
wrestling,
mean,
though, ain't it?
that's fine. I mean, just keep scheduling, Boxcar Jim and Hobo Joe to go against you instead of like the brother of the heavyweight champion. Like it's probably the better way to do it.
It's kind of like wrestling, though. Like the greatest heels, the best heels, you go and you want to watch them lose. You'll pay your money.
Yeah,
You'll
but
go sit
I
in the
like
arena.
them. Like you like to root against them. Like that's
Yeah,
because they're so good at what they're doing. You like to do it. I don't
that's
like
fair.
rooting against Jake Paul. I actually want him to lose. Like it's not like a joyful
Sure.
yeah, I'm in on the gag. I like this. Like, it's like no, just please somebody punch his face right off.
I did feel a little bit dirty watching the fight too. I'm like, why do I care about this? Why am I watching it? He
I
fooled me.
s-
He got me. But
Yeah, I mean it's funny. Like I think back to like when when I was young when Tyson busted out on the scene, and people were like, "Man, heavyweight division was so good back then." I was like, "It really wasn't. It was
no,
just Mike Tyson beating the crap out of everybody,
sure.
and it was incredible to watch. I mean, there
Yeah.
was like, what maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 fighters at his height, at his peak, that were like, whoa, okay, he just dismantled that guy. That's impressive.
Mhm.
Everybody else was just like what was it? Bone Crusher Smith, like that friggin' dude. That dude ended up in like 100 big fights. He lost every single one of them. That dude stunk.
I'll never forget watching Tyson beat Michael Spinks. And it was the first time I
Mhm,
ever seen a
mhm.
fighter who was a champion, by the way, Michael
Yep.
Spinks, coming into the fight. He was scared. It was
Yeah.
could be more obvious. He was literally physically and emotionally scared of Mike Tyson. I'll never forget that. Yeah, man, boxing when Tyson was at his heyday, his prime, his best, guys like Holyfield and Bo were there a little bit after,
Mhm.
Tyson got in some trouble and stuff like that, and he wasn't quite the same. It was still compared to today, though, man. That was like a
Yeah.
legendary golden era
Oh yeah.
of
It was
boxing for
it was a
sure.
lot of spectacle. Yeah, I mean, like you have George Foreman come back out of 40 years old fighting people, and
Yeah.
you watch him fight, and you're like, this dude even hit with any power? And you think about it, you're like, no, this is a big dude, and like he's just throwing jabs, and like everything is like getting hit in the face with a brick. And, and it's like you're watching him, you're like, this doesn't look impressive at all. I'm like, well, ask Michael Moorer about that. Moorer was
Tagged him
a
once.
decent fighter, and
Hmm.
he finally got the belt, and then he's like, all right, I'll fight Foreman. Yeah, whatever, I'll take out this old man. Moorer got his ass beat by George Foreman, and then Foreman was the champ, and you're like, okay, like I guess this is what it is now. But yeah,
Um,
the elite guys like Holyfield was elite, Lennox Lewis was elite. As far as I'm concerned, Lennox Lewis was the last really great heavyweight fighter.
I agree.
Everybody else after that was just some
I
kind of
agree.
Chris Bird. Remember that friggin' bum, Chris Bird,
Mhm.
just running around, running his mouth, just like not fighting ever. And it's like, this dude won a belt. John Ruiz, that friggin' guy? Like, come on.
Well, we're
Bill
going
Jones
down a
Jr. beat his
we
ass. And he's
we
like
are
50
we're going
pounds
down
down.
a rabbit hole right now. I could spend this entire podcast talking about boxing. You know what's funny? I had Tim Graham on early in the podcast. It might have been the second episode ever, and I think I might have spent 45 of our 60 minutes. We were actually talking boxing. That was a lot of fun. Anyways, all right. So Sunday after the Sabres game, the Sabres big win against Washington. I talked to you after the fact. Unfortunately, it was after the fact, but
Mhm.
my man Joe and a couple buddies or whatever went out for some wings. And if you were listening to the show last week, I spoke very, very highly of Sunny Reds, which is in Lackawanna, maybe about 5 minutes or so away from Highmark Stadium. Well, I stand by my take. The wings are among the very best in Western New York. I think they're hot or medium or as good as anyone,
Mhm.
including Barbell. And I said that. But maybe what I should have said, Joe, and made it a little more clear. Actually, I didn't know this. I learned this from you. I knew they weren't open 7 days a week, all right? But did not know that they were closed on Sunday, which, your best. I got to hold this against them a little bit. I've sing their praises. Got to call it out a little bit here, Joe. Your best ability is availability. Isn't that how the saying goes?
Mhm. Yep.
Well, Joe and his crew went to Sunny Reds on Sunday just to find out that they weren't even open. Which, man, that's tough, man. A
Yeah.
place known for wings not open on a Sunday on a weekend. It's
Hmm.
pretty rough.
Yeah. And like, I'm double checking like the times that they're open, and like I'm looking at like their Facebook page. There's some other like, and I think it's like one of those spoofed like websites for restaurants where it steals like their business or whatever. Um and like everything has different days and hours that it's open. And I'm like, well, this is no good. But
Yeah,
the one day that was there, every single one of them had that they were open was Sunday. And this was Sunday, and they were not open. They were very much not open.
that sucks. I found out, by the way, doing research after, unfortunately, like I said, after the fact,
Mhm.
talking to you, they were only open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and that's
Wow.
man for a place is and they're busy on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm telling you, this is a good place with good wings. I don't know why they're only open 3 days a week, but man, you got to. That's almost like 9/11 territory where either
Yeah.
A, it's too busy to sit at 9/11, or B, that you never know when they're open. You like literally, it's like
Mhm.
rolling the dice, man. You never know. So God, that sucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, you did
I mean, it's disappointing, but I mean,
you
I can't
salvaged
hold
the
it
day
against
though.
them, but I'm just like, man, get a real website,
Sure.
put your real friggin' hours someplace. Like
Yeah.
just because I'm literally looking through it right now. There's like three or four different links, and they all have different hours. The Facebook, like a Facebook page, some like TripAdvisor, like they all have different hours, different like it's like some say it's open on Tuesday, Mondays and Tuesdays still, and I'm like,
It's not.
it's open on Mondays and Tuesdays. Every place pretty much
Hasn't been in a
closes.
long time either. I
Right.
knew they
So,
weren't open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I thought they were open on Sunday though. That's just that's weird. Well, you did manage to salvage the day though with some
oh
good
yeah.
food though.
Oh yeah. We well, fortunately for us, Imperial's right down the street
Yeah.
from Sunny Red. So we were just like, well, screw it. We're just gonna go to Imperial. Man, oh man, it's good. It's good. This isn't
Is
a
that your
paid,
first time there?
it's my first time there. Yeah. This isn't like a paid message here for Imperial, but man, it was dynamite. The wings, we ordered, my buddy ordered 20 for him, and he had to bring some home to his wife. And then my buddy Nate and I split and order 20. We got 10 medium and then 10 Jamaican jerk.
Mm.
And man, oh man, like the sauce, this Jamaican jerk sauce, like real good sauce, you'll smell it on your hands for like days later. No, you wash your hand 1,000 times, won't matter. You'll still smell it on your like on your hands, on your clothes. You brush your teeth 9 times, you'll still smell it on your breath. Really good stuff. And we ordered the steak pizza, which
Mm.
we always try to get the specialty pizza if we're out someplace, and whatever. So we saw it. I look at the ingredients. I was like, oh yeah, this looks good.
I've never had it there.
It has hot peppers on it, which I'm thinking like, well, we're eating wings. What's the big deal? Hot peppers. Like, this can't be any big deal. Dude, I had like heartburn instantaneously biting into the hot peppers. My lips were on fire, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm sitting here eating hot wings, and like this pizza, the pizza's killing me. Like, oh man, it was good. Like, it's got hot peppers, mushrooms, and onions on it, and steak. So like, great.
Yeah.
It's a great pizza. It was good. I could not take it. Like the whatever the hot peppers are, man, congrats. They're friggin' hot as hell.
I consider this, I'm talking about Imperial here, one of those utility knife places, man. There's so many things on that menu that are good,
Mhm.
including the wings. And you mentioned a couple, and then honey mustard barbecue are awesome. They got
Mhm.
ciabattas, medium or hot, which are awesome, which is funny. And again, Joe and I are not collaborating on this, but
No.
since we're talking about Imperial, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that starting this Thursday, I'm going to be doing a live show every Thursday night from Imperial Pizza. I'm going to be joined this week by Houston Texans defensive end and Buffalo born and raised Damone Harris. He's going to be on the show Thursday again, live from Imperial. I got a lot of good guests coming up, which by the way, Joe and Lance, one of these weeks, I'm definitely going to get you guys up there and
Oh, yeah.
we'll dig in on some more wings. I'll get you plenty to try, man. They really are, man. Imperial's great. But anyway, when I say utility knife, it's like, it's not one specific thing they're known for. Like if you go to 9/11, for an example, you're going to get wings or you're out of luck. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like Imperial, you can get really good pizza there. The subs are good. not one elite thing that stands out above all the rest. Just a bunch of layers of really good stuff. It's funny too, because last week on the show, we were talking about Sunny Reds, and also at the end, we were talking about weird food combinations. And I told you about like the hot dogs and mashed potatoes. And you kind of gave me that look like, what in the hell are you even talking about? Well, I was thinking about that throughout the week. And sure enough, last night, Sunday night, I actually ended up having that for dinner. First time in many, many years. Brought me back to my childhood, man. If you didn't watch the show last week or listen, I make mashed potatoes. When I was a kid growing up, I should say, my father rarely cooked, but when he did on those rare occasions, he would make mashed potatoes in a pot on the stove, put a couple hot dogs in the microwave, chop them up into little bitty pieces, and mesh them in with the mashed potatoes, stir them up, and then would have hot dogs and mashed potatoes. A weird combination for sure. But anyway, I had that for dinner, and it was really cool, man.
Well, listen.
You gotta try it sometime. Trust me.
I don't know if I'm gonna try it. I don't know if
he's not gonna try it. No, you ain't trying that shit.
Definitely not gonna do that. But I don't know. Like you get thinking about like like old time stuff you had like when you were young kids. Like I got inspired to make like a grilled cheese the other day. I was like, I ain't had one of those in forever. Let me make one up. So I did. It was great. It was like it scratched an itch. Like that was perfect.
Before we get to some Sabres talk again, I want to make sure we give the Sabres some of the time and space they deserve on this show today. But I want to ask you a question because, again, you write, you have Noted Hockey, your own Substack, you do work Bleacher Report, you have your own podcast with Lance Lazowski. Of course, you do this show every week. You're on the radio a ton too. Mm-hmm. Of those, like, what do you prefer? Like, let's just say in a hypothetical fun world here, you can make a decent living, but only doing one. You can't do them all. Writing, you could either be a writer, whether it's your own or, working for a beat somewhere else, or you could be a sports talk radio show host somewhere, or you could, you could have your own podcast. And again, any of these scenarios, you're not going to be rich, but, you'd be successful enough that, you can pay your bills and have a couple bucks in your pocket, be able to go to Imperial Pizza once or twice a month to get some food, stuff like that. Like when it comes down to it at the end of the day, put away aside the business aspect. Who gives a shit about that part? Like, what do you enjoy doing the most? Do you enjoy being on podcasts or doing your own? You enjoy being on the radio as a guest? Do you enjoy writing the most? I know you like them all to some extent, but is there one that's above the rest?
I really like talking about it. Radio podcast, like whatever it is. I really like talking about it because it's a much more like natural flow of thought. And like I have to articulate my words. Obviously, I just can't just say a bunch of words and just be like, "Hey, you figure it out." But it's I don't know, like the conversational aspect of it. Writing is very solitary. It's extremely solitary. Like you're not sitting around talking with other people, then putting something together. Like you can't, like, if you can do that, man, good on you, because that's impossible for me to do. But like you're an audience of one and you're trying to write for an audience of many. And so you're kind of stuck. I mean, for me, I get caught in my own head a lot of times, and I've been trying to not do that more, like a lot more often with my writing. I'm just kind of like, no, man, just speak your mind, especially like, if it's on like I've got it on Noted Hockey. It's me writing it. It's not me having to like kind of couch it in general terms. Like sometimes on Bleacher Report, I'll write, if I'm writing something, I'll be like, we here at Bleacher Report, blah, 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 blah. And I just mean like, I mean it for like all of us writing the hockey stuff, but also like, it's just me saying stuff. So it's it's the old, never use your, like, never say I in a story you're writing, unless it's like an opinion piece. Then it's like, well, you got to then, but
sure.
But yeah, I really like talking about it because you can bounce stuff off of, whoever you're speaking with. And like, people are asking you questions because you're an authority on things, or, you at least give the air of being an authority anyway. Sometimes if you're just kind of like shooting from the hip, but it's a lot more fun that way because I mean, I don't know how other people feel or whatever. And if they got a difference of opinion, like, oh, cool, like, let's talk about it. Let's see what you got to say. That's more fun for me with that stuff. And I think it's a nice compliment for myself that I end up like having similar opinions to people that I do speak with. So that's kind of cool. Because that makes me think I'm doing something right, but also I might be talking to other people who are really wrong, and then hey, that's great, it's perfect. But no, it's way more fun to do speaking stuff. And I think like being a talk show host would be tough because it's just like writing because you're just talking. Like people are listening, nobody's sounding back to you, nobody's saying anything directly to you. You're just talking. And like if you don't have a co-host or something like that, you're just kind of talking. Like guys like Jim Rome and them who would just like shoot from the hip and just talk straight out, say whatever they say, and they just run with it. I'm like, man, that's hard. Like that's really hard because you either don't care about your audience and you just say whatever and you're just like, I stand by it, or you're really involved in what the audience thinks and says, and you're just kind of like, let's find a way to either poke the bear or get them riled up or do something like that. Like that's the whole part of that. But yeah, no, I love writing. It's my thing. Like that's what I lead off with. But I love talking to people about hockey.
All right, I am back here talking Buffalo with Joe Yerdon. All right, so listen, we're going to talk Sabres, but again, this happened just a few minutes before we started taping. I want to pull up this trailer to make sure I don't get it wrong. Before we talk about this past week, a wild week, a fun week for the Sabres, a small trade. Again, Josh Bloom, Sabres prospect, goes to Vancouver for defenseman Riley Stillman. And I kind of like been following along a little bit on Twitter as best I can with replies. And let's just say this. I hope this isn't the only thing Kevin Adams does, or I think fans, their heads might explode right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much even what you would know about Riley Stillman. It seems to me from what I'm reading, initially, this is a guy who's probably a 7th defenseman on a team, at least most teams. Anyway, that's a projection. That's what I'm seeing. Mm-hmm. Still got a year under contract next year at $1.35 million. So it's not even like this is a guy they're just trying to pick up down the stretch for, a month or two. You got any thoughts on Josh Bloom going? It seems to me like, again, initial knee-jerk reaction from mainly fans here is that, Bloom might have been a pretty decent prospect for a very bottom of the roster type defenseman. What do you think?
Yeah, Bloom was an interesting prospect. I was excited to see where things were going to go with him because he's back in junior. He's back in juniors again this year. Next year, or after the junior season was over, he was probably headed to Rochester, and he would have been there next season. So it would have been very interesting to see like how he would have grown and progressed, because I think his skill set is interesting, and there, he's very good. He's shown that he's been pretty good on the penalty kill this year. He's been like a shorthanded goal monster in juniors, but moving him for Riley Stillman, it's a bit of a head scratcher. I think the consensus was they were going to add a defenseman at some point because they could use more consistency. And they could use, a lot more help on the penalty kill because the penalty kill is horrible. Some of the names that were getting kicked around made a lot of sense. Riley Stillman was not a name that was kicked around whatsoever. Buffalo's going to be his 4th team already. And he's been in the league, 4 or 5 seasons tops. The metrics don't look great. He's been in Vancouver this season. Vancouver's horrendous. He was in Chicago the last season and a half before this. He was in Chicago. They've been awful. Like, we know that. And he started off his career in Florida. Now, the name sounds familiar, Stillman. He's the son of Corey Stillman, who played on the Carolina Hurricanes, who played with Kevin Adams. So there's that kind of connection there. I don't think that's why the move is made. I'll be very honest about that. That's not why that happens. But I don't know. I've been trying to comb over some of like the advanced numbers and trying to see like what sticks out about him that makes this move make sense. And I'm kind of struggling with it right now. And it's listen, the coaching staff and Adams have kind of earned the leeway to like bring in a guy and say like, all right, let's see what he's about. Let's see what goes on here. So I do want to see what this is about, because right now on its face, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't get it.
This could be part of something else, but potentially, meaning, well, what I mean by that is, you look at this guy right now, you're like, well, for the moment they're seeing him in the lineup, but maybe they still make another move, or maybe he becomes the guy who comes in if somebody does get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It just,
well, I think the upsetting part here might be is that to get him on the roster, they might have to.
You got to get rid of someone, right? Oh,
well, they could get rid of somebody, or they
don't
could just
say what I think you might be saying.
I'll lean on retroactive IR to like what, Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Saturday, like maybe to Saturday or something, depending. So that would put him on the shelf for a week. So he would miss the Tuesday night game against Columbus. Yeah, you better be able to beat Columbus. Like, let's be real.
Right.
You better be able to handle the Blue Jackets. Would also put him out for
Boston,
which is
Thursday. Yeah.
A lot harder. That's a much more difficult game. And then it would all depend on the date when he got put on, because they're playing Tampa Saturday at home, and that's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal because it'll be a very feisty game. After how the Tampa game ended down there, so that'll be. You want all your guns going against the team like Tampa, just because you don't want to get run off the ice, and B, you want to see how you line up against the best. So
sure.
Back-to-back games with Boston and Tampa, though, that's tough. That's really friggin' tough. But there's a possibility there's another move coming. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you waive Clague. Maybe you decided you'd rather have Stillman than Clague. I can't see that being the case. Maybe you send Bryson down. I can't see that being the case. Like, it's just neither of those options seem right. Maybe there's another minor trade coming somewhere. Maybe there's another, decent trade that's coming here soon, but I find that kind of tough to believe right now. But right now, on its face, I don't get it.
Right. That's how I think most fans and probably media feel, at least on the surface right now. And again, we're taping this Monday night. Maybe by Tuesday morning, when people are listening and watching this, it makes a little more sense. Maybe we learn another piece to something. I don't know. Right. But anyway, last week on this show, we talked about what a daunting week the Sabres had ahead of them. Toronto at home, and then on the road at Tampa, at Florida, and at Washington. And I remember vividly you saying it was critical for the Sabres to beat Florida and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, no Alex Tuck, at least against Washington, no Rasmus Dahlin against Washington. Tage Thompson's held to just 1 point, and the Sabres still put 7 goals on the board at home, which is kind of weird because they've been playing much better on the road this year. So that's why I'm emphasizing at home. Like, that's a big deal against Washington in a win. So they beat Washington, they beat Florida, and then for good measure, they beat Tampa Bay as well, man. This was again, let's give this team some respect at this point because they deserve it. This was a hell of a week, man. And I was sitting there talking to you last week, and you're running down, how good these teams are. And I'm thinking to myself, shit, man, this could easily be an 0-3 in 1 week, where they kind of, I don't want to say put themselves out of it, but, put themselves in a lot of trouble. And that is not the case. It was completely the opposite. As we're recording this anyway, the Sabres could be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
A hell of a week, man.
Yeah. And it's funny because everybody was jumping ship after the loss to Toronto. Everybody was like, it begins now.
Because they got outclassed. They looked like they just looked like they were outclassed that game. Unless maybe you disagree with that.
It was a really bad first 12 minutes. Like nobody did anything correct. Like, we don't need to go over that game again. Like that was one of the worst starts to their game. From that point, I mean, granted, it's 4-0, but like from that point on, they played decently well. I mean, they were able to get back into the game a little bit, but I mean, to come back and go to Florida, beat Tampa in Tampa, they never win Tampa. Let's be real.
And they were down 1-0, what, like 2-3 minutes into the game. So I'm like, oh, here we go again. Here goes this. Here they go on, and it's just going to fall apart.
It was very early into that game. They were down, and then they came back, and man, they just kind of ran Tampa off the ice in the second period. I mean, they got out, what was after 2? It was 4-2. They had a lead, and then, point scores, it's 4-3. Thompson scores, and it's 5-3. And then it's, a couple of bad, a couple of sketchy goals there. After that, make it, get it to overtime. They take a penalty late in overtime, and you're just like, come on, man. Like, you can't yak this one away. You just can't do it. Like, and like the whole end of that game got very
chippy,
questionable. Like Oposo takes an elbow right in the face. No
dirty
call. It was a dirty elbow. Like, that's chicken wing elbow. Like, it meant to catch you in the face or whatever. Like, that was bad. And Chernak got suspended for 2 games for it. No penalty called on the play, of course. Why would there be? But then it's maybe a couple minutes later, Yoki Haru just like, it's a puck in the air, and he just ends up batting it, and it just ended up going off his stick into the stands. And it's like, well, I didn't mean to do that, but
right,
because the NHL made that the automatic rule, like, oh, you hit it out, it's a penalty, because you have to call, some penalties have to be automatic. Never mind, elbows in the face aren't automatic, but yeah, whatever. I can't get going about that. But he takes the delay of game penalty. They go to overtime, and you're just like, all right, well, they got a point. That's a win. Great. They held on. They didn't choke the game away in regulation. You're fine. And then, Ilya Lyubushkin.
That was awesome.
Like, completely harasses Stamkos into giving up the puck. Stamkos tries to draw a penalty, and the referees were like, we let you get away with one already, and we gave you a delay of game call. You're not getting that one. Like, and if you can't catch up to that guy, maybe you shouldn't win the game. Because
that was my favorite moment of the season, by the way.
Dude, if they end up making the playoffs, and if they make it by low single digits, 1-2 points, that's the game everybody's going to circle.
Sure.
That's the one that did it. Because
that's awesome.
They turned it around. I mean, they've turned it around for now after that. Like, they beat Florida the next night. They kicked the crap out of the Caps. We'll see what happens the rest of the week. I mean, again, 2 evil games to end this week, so that's tough. But that's a rallying point, because the bench went crazy. Why wouldn't they? It's Ilya Lyubushkin. The guy never scores a goal. Like, he hadn't scored in, like, what,
4th goal of his career or something like that.
Nuts. And it's a shorthanded goal in overtime, and he snaps it by one of the best
goalies
in the world. Like,
second Sabre ever to do that, in a defenseman, I should say. Or no,
second ever.
And shorthanded. It was
the other was Pominville.
Right. That's what I was trying to think of. I knew Pominville was able to score. I just couldn't think of the scenario. But man, that was awesome. The reaction from the Sabres, to your point, was awesome. And I do think that carried some momentum for sure going into Florida, and then back home against Washington, which, again, no Tuck, no Dahlin. I'm like, God damn, of course. Here we go. The Sabres finally get themselves in a position, and now all these guys are going to start going down, and this team's just going to fall off, and it's going to suck. But I'll tell you right now, Joe, I don't talk about him enough. I don't think other people talk about him enough. We talk so much about Dahlin and Tage and Tuck, and they deserve it. But I'm going to tell you, man, at this point, so does Dylan Cousins, because this kid is really, really coming on. And I look at him and Tage Thompson combined, what, $14 million or something like that against the Cap combined, and they're signed for like the next 7 years. So when I see Kevin Adams do that work, when they go pick up someone named Riley Stillman or whatever the hell dude's name is, I ain't gonna get that mad, because Kevin Adams has done some good work.
Yeah,
he had a hat trick that game, by the way. I should probably throw that out there.
Yeah.
You're talking about Dylan Cousins, because this kid, I mean, the Sabres probably, and if you want to put Peyton Krebs as that 3rd center, which I think he's starting to look a lot better too. It's like the Sabres, that feels like they got 3 set defensemen on this team, not just for now, but for years to come, and good ones too.
Yeah, 3 centermen. They also do have three defensemen set too, with Dahlin, Power, and Samuelson. Like,
sure,
man, spread away there, man. But Cousins, I mean, this is where I want to do a little pat myself on the back for this one, because everybody before the season is like, well, who do because building off of Tage having a breakout season, like, well, who do you see being the next guy to break it out? And I'm like, Cousins.
You did say
Cousins.
that.
Cousins is the guy that's going to break out. And they're like, well, why is that? And I'm like, well, the puck didn't go in for him last year. He did everything else right. Everything else he did right. Just the shots didn't go home. Well. Look at what's happening now. He's 22 goals, 21 goals now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's impressive the way he plays the game because he plays with a fire, like a not quite like a bug up his ass, but like he's just locked in every game. Like there's no lack of effort. There's like none of that stuff where like, oh well, he took a couple shifts off. Like, I don't blame him. It's it's a long game. Blah blah blah. None of that ever happens with him. He's full tilt all the way, and the dude, I swear, if they would let him, he would fight every shift.
I love the kid, man.
He will not back down from anybody. Anybody starts stirring stuff up when he's out there, he's immediately in their face. And he's like, well, if you want to go, let's friggin' go already. Like nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to fight nowadays. But Cousins, he'll
Do you
take
see
on
Peck in
anybody.
him? Do you see Mike Peck in him? I hear that relatively a lot.
That's I want to see how his defensive game continues to grow because pretty good now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good now, but Pekka's main thing was he was a brilliant defender, like great on faceoffs, great defender, and then the goals started coming for him, and I was like, oh, okay, well rounded, great. And when you trade Alex Mogilny, you better get a really damn good player in return, and they got one. Pekka getting Pekka in that deal was like, whoa, all right, cool. It's an easy comparison to make though, like because I can see why because Pekka played similarly with that. You're not going to intimidate me. You can't get one over on me. Like whatever. I'll serve it back at you. That's how Cousins plays it. You know what? Krebs is kind of doing a little bit of the same thing too. Although whatever he's doing, it's not immediately noticeable. But he's pissing everybody off. Like anytime he's on the ice, somebody's just chirping at him or like taking a poke at him, just being like, dude, what is your problem? And listen, whatever he's doing, it's working because it's making his game sharper because guys are going out of their way to try to take a run at him, which, okay, want to open up the ice for him. Cool. Like take a dumb run and miss him. And then suddenly it's a 2-on-1. Awesome. But yeah,
You're in the locker room, Joe.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this about Cousins. Being in the locker room, you see him on a different level sometimes than fans we see him. Do you sense, it's easy to say, oh, this guy's got leadership qualities, just do you sense legit, like when you look at Dylan Cousins, like this guy looks like a legitimate and sounds like a legitimate leader? From the outside, I feel like that's what I see. You're there, like I said, you're around the guys, you're around him, you're in that locker room. Do you sense like legit, like this is a guy that when you talk about your core of leadership, like he's right there with them?
What I see from him is a almost like a quiet cockiness, which doesn't make like I get those. That's like an oxymoron, but there's I guess the right word is swagger. But like he carries himself with the utmost confidence, and he's pretty even keeled. Like you don't look at him and say like, oh man, they're determined. Like that guy's he's a leader of men. That guy, and like you don't actively see it because again he's 21. He's 21, 22 years old, whatever he is. Like it's tough to view that with guys that young, which is weird to say because I see it with Darlene. Like Darlene is stern, stone, serious, but like guys love him. He cuts it up and he's joking with them. Like they love him for it. But when it comes to dealing with us, Darlene is like he's locked in. There's like no screwing around with him. Cousins is classic Canada hockey player. Like he answers the questions very straight, kind of dull. The dude ain't dull. Like he's an interesting guy. And I mean, like it's almost like the most interesting man in the world thing, the Dos Equis kind of thing, because this dude's like, I mean, he's from Yukon, so it's like he's from way up north. Like, he's a big outdoorsman in the off season, fishing, hunting, all that stuff, and like he's really into that. He's big into sport. He's big into cars, like sports cars. I asked him, I said, "What are you doing with? What's the first thing you're gonna get with the money?" And he's like, "I got to get a nice car." And I'm like, "How nice we talking?" He's like, "Oh, something real nice." I'm like, "Okay, well, make sure you can drive it around here all times of the year because otherwise,
ain't driving it tonight." I'll tell you that right now. Monday night here, it's snowing. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I look at his classic, like, how was I when I was 21 years old? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a pro athlete. I wasn't scoring goals for any team or anybody, but it's like that same kind of attitude, but it's like, he can back it up. Like his play backs it up. It's that kind of thing where you can see it, but it's not leadership necessarily. It is to a degree because, I mean, he's kind of taken Peterka and Quinn, and not necessarily Krebs because he and Krebs are like the same age, but like Peterka and Quinn, like those guys have kind of taken them taking them like kind of under their wing, even though they're like a year older than them.
Yeah. That's really cool to see, man. It's funny. If you happen to be watching this and not listening, I'm sitting there wailing away at these controls and pulling up pictures of the wrong guys and shit like that. But I'll tell you, I'm glad I did that, though, because I'm going to pull it back up again. Mm-hmm. Alex Tuch. All right. So now they got by, obviously, on Sunday, a big win, an impressive offensive display, too, a big win against Washington. But going forward, if this guy's going to be out, 2-3 weeks, hopefully only 2 to 3 weeks. It could be more, of course. I mean, I don't think you guys quite know for sure yet, but that's a loss they're going to feel. Talk about that a little bit. And also, I mean, literally just not long before we started taping this, on your noted hockey, I saw that, and I only got a chance at this point to glance over, and I'm going to read it after our show. But you wrote about a player that might be a good addition, not necessarily taking Tuck's spot,
right,
but just a good addition in this roster that they could use. James Van Riemsdyk from Philly. Talk about him a little bit too. And again, this is an article that you just posted on your noted hockey.
Yeah. So the thought was, if you're trying to find a way to replace Tuck, which you can't do, it's impossible. He's
right.
20 north of 25 goals, 60 points already. You're not replacing him with anybody. You're not going to get that same kind of production from anybody that you trade for, whatever. Like, maybe within the lineup, probably not. I love the move of putting Quinn with Thompson and Skinner against Washington. I thought that was a great call, because Quinn's played great for like the last couple weeks. Been very good. The confidence is high again. So you want to take advantage of that. And boy, he looked good. He looked awfully good again. I mean, Washington helped it out by leaving the gate open the entire game, letting the Sabres kind of attack at will, and leaving a lot of openings there. But took advantage of it, which is the key part. And he made an incredible pass to Cousins at some point. At one point in the second period, he looked good. He looked really good, and that's good for the meantime. But moving him up means they brought Vinny Hinostroza back from Rochester, so he slid into that spot that he was next to Cousins, that Quinn moved off of. And then your third line was Peterka, Krebs, and Olofsson, which, Peterka's been struggling. Olofsson's, so hot and cold that, I think he's pretty
really
cold
is
right now.
Yeah.
Which you hate seeing that, because he is a good player, but it's been so up and down with him this year. So my thought was, if you want to get a guy who's at that similar mold of Tuck, Van Riemsdyk makes all the sense in the world. He's the same size, a little bit, he's not as heavy as Tuck. He's not as physical as Tuck is, but he's 6'3", plays great on the power play. He's great stick down low, really good around the net. And he can take the goalie's eyes away by standing in front of him. He can snap shots off and beat goalies with his wrister. He's got over 900 games of NHL experience. He's played in the playoffs. He's 32, 33 years old, I think it is. It's a team Sabres lack in the veteran side of things. It's Kyle. It's I guess Zemgus is a veteran now. It's those two guys, and then it's Craig Anderson. Like, you don't have a lot of other guys that can say they've been there before. I mean, Zemgus hasn't been there before. Anderson and Opozo have, but Tyson Jost has been there before too. But he's still kind of young himself. But for a guy that's been around the bend, he started his career in Philly, went to Toronto for 6 years, came back to Philly. He's seen it all, man. Like, he's been in the high pressure situation. Philly and Toronto are not light pressure situations. Like, that's heavy, intense scrutiny. I mean, Philly, it's hard fans. Toronto, it's hard fans and even harder media. I mean, Philly media is not easy either, but Toronto's on a whole other level. But for if you bring in a guy like JVR, like the thing you run into, he's a left wing, so you're not putting him on with Thompson because Skinner's there. So then you're coming down to, do you put him with Cousins or do you put him with Krebs? Well, you have some hard decisions to make there, because you have Casey Middlestad, who's playing great right now. He's having a very good season. I know half the fan base doesn't want to hear that stuff, but he's played very well. He looked great with Cousins on Sunday. He looked awesome there. So you could maybe slide him in there, and then you move Casey somewhere else. Well, where else are you putting him? Well, that comes down to Peterka. Peterka hasn't scored since the middle of December. He's going through it. He's kind of fighting it. He's young. Like, this stuff happens. There's been a little bit of a jump to his game lately. Like you've noticed him at least a few times. Like there's been some chances, there's been some shots, and he's trying to work through it. If you add a JVR, you're not adding him to have him hang out on the bench or hang out in the press box half the time. You're just like you're not doing that. Like that's you're adding him to play him and put him in somewhere in your middle six. And then it becomes a question of like, well, what do you do at Middlestat if you put him on that line, and then are you sitting Peterka otherwise? They haven't really wanted to do that much in the second half of the season. Like Peterka sat out for one of the games. I think it was out west. I want to say. I think he sat out for one of those games because Asplund got in the lineup. But they don't want the young guys to be watching all the time from the press box. And if you add a JVR, that's where he's going. And that's how that works. That's the downside of that. But if you're worried about, I can't imagine getting too worried about offensive production, but it's a big subtraction losing Tuck. So if you want to add, if you want to get somebody in there that can feasibly replicate that, Van Riemsdyk's a pretty good option there because he's at the end of a contract. The cap hit $7 million. Doesn't matter. There's a month and a half left of the season. And the Sabres have plenty of cap space regardless. So it doesn't matter. But the only catch, and it's a big catch, is just how do you figure out your lineup if you add them, because that's the problem. And then when Tuck comes back, it's like, okay, what are you doing then? Well, cross that bridge when you get to it, because if it's, with the last 5 games of the season or something like that, last couple weeks or whatever, cool. Like you've got Alex Tuck, the real thing. And then you've got, a guy who used to play like Alex Tuck back in the day. So like, it's a nice problem to have, but it does present Kevyn Adams with a debate of whether to stick with the young guys the way they have all season and just have them, learn it, go get better, improve from it, go through the hardships, improve from it, do that. Or say, listen, I owe it to you guys to get you to the playoffs. We're going to be without Alex for X number of weeks. We need a boost there because they're not going to call up they're not going to call up Kulik from Rochester. None of those guys are going to come up. They're going to stay there. We owe it to you to get you to the postseason. So we're going to add JVR or add whoever, because we want to get you guys there, because we want you to have that experience, because next year you're going to go to the playoffs and you're going to make some noise, even more noise than you're making this year. So it's a tough ask. It's a really tough decision, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Adams approaches it. And this is, of course, considering everybody else stays healthy, because if you run into any other problems before Friday, then, you gotta react fast. And then maybe you might be making a sketchy trade after that. But yeah, to me, JVR is the first guy that I took a look at, and I almost feel like I don't need to profile anybody else because he fits it so well to what Tuck does. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Adams handles it. But if they decide to add a forward, you could do a lot worse than JVR. You probably can't do better than him. And that's not putting him down. That's him being a veteran, solid veteran player who can score. And he's not a guy who defensively is going to leave you out to dry. Like he's fine. Like he's not going to win a Selke award, but he's fine.
So this is one of the most overrated weeks of the whole calendar if you're a football fan. And the NFL Combine is this week. I really don't have too much to add about that. Bunch of us are going to go nuts because some guys are going to be taller than we thought, and they're going to run a little faster than we thought. If the Combine's good for anything, some news, non-prospect news might come out of that. But, I mean, guys do go up the draft board or down the draft board sometimes because of the Combine. And, I don't know. I just think it's personally ridiculous, man. Film should always, speak for itself. But this is it's an event. It's an NFL event at this point. And, the NFL's got to stay on top of the news all they can. One other thing, too, and then I want to finish with our 4-pack of questions that I have for you for this week. there's week after week, I'm sitting here waiting for something to happen with the Bills, so we have something to talk about, like news wise, and it's nothing's happening. But something's got to give soon, Joe, because we're talking now. We're into this is the last day of February, and March 13th is the NFL legal tampering period, which essentially is the real start of free agency. So you're talking like what, 2 weeks or so?
Yeah.
Shit's got to go down soon. The Bills are 16.5 million over the cap. And they're going to make a lot of moves. They're going to do a lot. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of cuts. There's going to be a lot of restructures, a lot of kicking the can down the road. There might be one or two guys I can see getting cut. Heims might be one, maybe McKenzie. There's some money to be saved there. But you're going to see guys like Josh and Trey White, maybe Von Miller have deals redone. So they'll have that money. Of course, Edmonds, we'll see what happens with that. Here's what I want to tell you, though. I've been waiting to have you on the podcast all week to tell you this. Because I'm tying the team I cover and love into the team that you like, the Detroit Lions. I told you this, maybe in a DM or maybe on Twitter. I don't know, whatever. But I don't say this word often at all. But I'm just going to tell you this.
Okay.
I could tell you from I'm just going to say a source. So somebody that I trust, somebody who is a reliable source, that the Detroit Lions are going to at least take a crack at landing Jordan Poyer. And it's not just fans trying to put 2 to 2 together. The Lions are a team that's looking pretty good and they got some money. I'm telling you that there's a list of teams that I know for a fact have shown some interest in Jordan Poyer. I don't know about offers, term, or any of that stuff, but he knows that he's got a list of maybe 3 to 5 teams, not including the Bills, who are interested in his services. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you for a fact, dude, the Detroit Lions are among them. I don't know what are your thoughts on that? A guy like Poyer going to potentially the team that you like the most, the Detroit Lions.
It's interesting because secondary is it's always been a problem for them. I mean, everything's been a problem for them for a long time. But in this new iteration of the Lions where it's like, hey, they might be something now. Safety position's been a little bit, I mean, there's been injuries. Their secondary's gotten beat up like crazy the last couple of years. I mean, Jeff Okuda's great. Dude can't stay in the lineup. Like, that's tough. And I'm looking at their depth chart right now, and I'm just trying to figure out, like Tracy Walker and Deshaun Elliott are their safeties. Like, it's okay. Tracy Walker's okay, I guess. But like, when you're saying your guys are okay, that means if you're getting Jordan Poyer, you're like, we got it solved. Like you're saying it's taken care of. And
is it a little unfair, Joe? I didn't mean to cut you off, but is it? We're talking Lions and Jordan Poyer here. It's a little unfair to say that the guy, because he was hurt a ton last year, and he is going to be 32 years old. But it's not like this guy has a long history of injuries that make him miss multiple games every season. Is it fair to say that maybe this year was like a little bit of an anomaly, at least? I don't necessarily know that you're signing a guy and you can't count on him to be able to play, because history doesn't. Last year tells me that, but history doesn't. I think he's still got plenty left in the tank, and he's a leader and he's a winner.
Yeah, I one season with injuries, I mean, it can be an anomaly. It's a little tougher when you're past 30 in the NFL, like, because then it's like, is it going to hold up? I think it's a fair question to ask. To kill him for it, I don't know if I would. I wouldn't do that. I mean, he's been all pro like with the last couple of years. He's played at all pro. I mean, he wasn't all pro last year. Was he this year too?
No, 2 years ago he was. This year, well, he missed too much football.
Right. So I mean, like, but that's the level of player you're talking about. So you gotta put respect on his name for that. I mean, listen, anytime you're talking about signing a guy that's north of 30 in the NFL, you better be sure you're able to walk away from that contract without getting your cap killed at some point, because you don't know, especially in defense. I mean, you're laying your body out all over the place. You're making, Poyer's a pretty physical safety. I mean, he's good at coverage. He can pick balls off, but like, he's still hitting guys too. I mean, he's not like a hide hitting guys, but he's still gonna hit guys.
Sure.
So, I mean, you gotta have some concern there, but I mean, geez, I haven't looked at what's available out there as far as safeties go, but I mean, he's top of the list. He has to be. So, if you're going to add a guy of that caliber, I'm all for it. So if Detroit's about it, then they have plenty of cap space. I mean, they just cut what was his name? They just cut a guy last week.
Brockers.
Yep. Brockers. So they just cut him, and that saved them even more money against the cap. So it's like, well, they didn't need to, but now they've got even more to spend.
Yeah, I think they saved like 11 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
Poyer's going to get Poyer's going to. I would be willing to. I'd be stunned if Poyer doesn't get, like, say, maybe a 3-year deal that's voidable after 2, easily voidable, so that he can get more money up front. The team that signs him can spread that hit over 3 years, get out of it after 2, where it won't crush them, even if they had to get over it. Look, I know the odds say that Miami is the team. I mean, I don't know if you heard it, but Jordan Poyer was on his podcast, and he was going on this rant about taxes and how New York takes half his money. And I don't need to tell you how his wife feels about stuff like that, how Rachel feels about stuff like that. I don't know, man. I don't think it's a big stretch to say where he plays next. You have to wonder how much of an influence. And I'm not saying his wife having an influence on where he's going is that's not necessarily a criticism, Joe.
Right.
You know, if I had offers to go work at different places throughout the country, my wife should have a say in it as well. I don't know. She should have a public say where I'm the one who's, the one playing somewhere, and my wife is the one, out in public saying it.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
She loves Miami. All right. Let's just get to it, man. They live in Florida. She loves it there. She loves the politics in Florida. She loves the weather in Florida. And she loves those state sales tax, which Jordan Poyer suddenly is making a big point. Makes you wonder. Texas is another state where the taxes are lower for the players. Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So they can be on the table. I mean, the betting odds would probably say Miami, but I'm just telling y'all, if you're listening, you know how you said you're going to take credit for Dylan Cousins, and you did say that too, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to take a shitload of credit if Jordan Poyer goes to Detroit Lions, man. I'm going to tell you right now.
I given those factors, I mean, Michigan is not a tax friendly state in that respect.
But they can pay you money, man. You forget about those taxes quick. Pay you enough money. Plus, they're a good team. That's the key. Detroit's a good team now.
Yeah, and but it is. I don't know because their politics are their politics. Like, does Florida count for more? Because again, that's like home for Rachel and for Poyer too. Really, I think he's from Miami too, isn't he? So like, is it to go there, or I don't know, maybe Jacksonville is like, hey, we got more money, come to us. They make that call, or the Cowboys, or the Texans because it's Texas, or the Titans because Tennessee has the same sort of relaxed tax stuff, or the Raiders because now they're in Vegas. So if you want to go strictly by that stuff, like there's a lot of options.
Sure, there is
away from being taxed like crazy, but how many of those are winning teams? Like Miami's probably a winning team. Jacksonville, probably a winning team. Dallas is a winning team. Houston's not a winning team. The Raiders.
No, he's not going to Houston. He's not going to Houston.
He's not a winning team. So like,
no, Detroit's a winning team, man. I mean, they'll have to come up.
They're in the conversation. I mean, that's. I mean,
I'm telling you,
the NFC North is going to be weird, man, because the Vikings are going to be like the runaway favorites, and I'm like, they're fake.
I know. We agree on that. We say that all the time, and we both agree on that.
Team. And then like Green Bay's getting rid of Rodgers. Like, I mean, I had to mute Aaron Rodgers' name on Twitter because I'm so sick of reading nonsense from that moron. But
darkness retreat.
But I mean, like, please give me a friggin' break.
Just like Pat Kane's, points of reflection or whatever the hell he's doing right now.
Listen, I like that because that's fantastic PR by his agent, Pat Brisson. Like, that's friggin' fantastic. Because plus, he's only going to one team. He's going to the Rangers. Like that's what.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else he's going. He's going to the Rangers.
It would be stunning. One last thing with Poyer too. I'll say this: don't count the Bills out. I mean, I don't think the Bills are out of it. I think Jordan's going to drum up interest as best he can. I think he's going to take offers, and I think he wants. I think if all things were equal, I do think Jordan Poyer. I don't think it's only 100% about the money. Like if Miami and Buffalo both offered, let's just throw a number. Let's just say 11 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If the money's that close, I don't think he's going to pick Miami because they are going, if you factor in the taxes. I truly don't. I just think he wants Buffalo to show him the respect that he feels and he's earned that he deserves. He doesn't want a 1 year, $4.5 million offer from the Bills.
Yeah.
He wants their offer to be competitive. I wouldn't count him out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe so much time has went by now where ain't shit going on with the Bills that I've talked myself into every scenario imaginable. Because I'm gonna tell you, a month ago I said there ain't no way Jordan Poyer's come back to Buffalo, and there's no way Tremaine Edmunds is leaving Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, days away, I think there's a 50-50 chance or more that Tremaine Edmunds leaves. And I think there's maybe at least going from maybe 5% up to maybe 35% chance that Poyer ends up in Buffalo. I do know for sure that he doesn't want to leave Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to get paid what he's worth.
Right.
I'm sure that makes sense to you as well.
Oh, so, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
he's not going to come here on a discount is what I'm telling you. Is he, I love this team 6 years. They showed me so much love. I'm coming back and I'm going to take a big discount. He's not.
Yeah.
He knows he's got one more nice payday left in him and he's going to get it.
No, these guys aren't going to Matt Milano themselves, especially a guy at 30, 31, 32 years old. He's just
he's going to be 32.
Like he knows he's good. He knows he's league good and he can get paid. And I don't know, man. You said like, I just can't see him doing it. But I'm like, I seem to remember lots of guys going from the Yankees to the Red Sox and the Red Sox to the Yankees at the height of that rivalry and just being like, yeah, whatever, man. Got to get paid. Yeah. Johnny Damon did that. He was just like, yeah, cool. We won our series there. Great. I'll go over to those guys now. Like,
if you're a Bills fan and your off season is a success or failure on if, you're a big Jordan Poyer fan and you want him back, I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned.
Oh, yeah.
Him leaving is bad enough. Him leaving and going to play in Miami is like, that's a bad scenario. We'll see how it plays out, which, by the way, again, finally, we'll start to have some stuff to be able to react to when it comes to the Bills in the NFL, because some shit's going to start going down. Anyway, I want to finish with the 4-pack of questions for you. These are not sports questions, kind of random questions. I say it all the time, man. It's an opportunity for listeners and watchers to get to know a couple more fun facts, interesting things about you and myself as well. Let's start here. A movie that everyone loves, but you don't really like.
I had one earlier today that I was thinking of and it left my head and now I'm really mad at myself about it. It seems like the ones I think of are like holiday movies and I feel like that's its own separate category. Like Love Actually, like people love that movie. I'm just like, every character in that movie, apart from like 3 of them, I want to throw off a bridge. Like it's just, it's hard for me to like root for people in that movie where it's like, no, most of you guys are awful. And like, this is being played, like if it's a comedy and they're awful people, yeah, right, whatever, it's fine. But like that, I don't know. My other contender is Say Anything.
That's
John Cusack.
Oh, yeah. Really?
Holding the stereo up. You pay attention to really pay attention to what that story is about, man. That's a messed up story. That is a really screwed up story. And it gets weird when because you think about it, you just think of like the scenes, like the different iconic scenes from it. You're just like, wow, oh, man, I love that movie. I'm like, did you pay attention to the story? It's really fucked up. And like, it's like I sat down and watched it one night because I was like, I got to finally watch this thing in full because I've seen all the different scenes 1,000 times. And I was like watching it. I'm like, no, this is a bad movie, guys. Get away from this thing.
I'm going to go with any of the Austin Powers movies. I know a lot of people like Michael Myers and think Austin Powers funny, groovy, baby. Yeah, that's just stupid to me, man. I thought those movies were never as funny as people made them out to be. And I just personally don't really think Michael Myers is all that funny to be honest. So I'm gonna go with that one, man.
I'm glad you gave him full name treatment, like make him like he's the horror character. Everybody's all cool and like Mike Myers. Yeah,
he is Mike Myers. I was thinking of the serial killer. Well, I tell you how much I don't
so much. I'm calling him Michael Myers.
Like, it's all Mike Myers. All right. What did Joe? What's your favorite sandwich combination?
Man, I'm a child. It's peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
I know it's got to be like turkey and a provolone and lettuce, tomato, all that's great too. But like, man, I'm too much of a 5-year-old in my head with when it comes to that, because there's nothing more satisfying when you've got the urge for it. There ain't nothing more satisfying than that. Like, especially if you're feeling, and it's attached to being sick home from school. Like if you're feeling like crap and you're just kind of like, oh, whatever, just make a can of soup and have a PB&J sandwich. You're in heaven.
This might repulse you about me, man. I don't like anything on my sandwiches. I don't like any condiments. I don't like anything. Like if I have a ham sandwich, I have ham and bread. If I want a roast beef, if I go to a supermarket and get like a deli sandwich, like roast beef, it's roast beef and bread, turkey and bread, plain.
Like no cheese, no
cheese. I can have like steak and melted cheese. Like I like steak and cheese subs, but like everything is plain. I don't want any ketchup on shit. I don't want no lettuce, tomato.
You don't want
oil,
condiments. You don't want
no mayonnaise.
You don't want toppings. You don't want anything.
Nothing. Wow. Literally, whatever the lunch meat is, and bread or a roll or whatever.
That's really old school. Like
it really is, and it's terrible.
Old school, man. Well,
everyone, all my friends hate me because of that too. By the way, when we go out to eat anywhere, but it is what it is. All right, 2 more here. Let me preface this one before, if you're watching this, you're already seeing it. If you're listening, it says just stop for a minute and recommend a good song from back in the day. Joe and I have had countless music related, whether they were drafts or conversations about music. So we could be here literally for 5 hours if we're going to go through a bunch of songs that we think are awesome from back in the day and recommend to people. So kind of one of those rapid fire, just pick a quick song in your mind, something that's good from back in the day. If people right now are like, you know what, I'm really in the mood to hear a good song, man. Give somebody a song.
How far back in the day are we going?
As far back as you want to go.
Oh man.
Not yesterday or in the last 10 years.
No. Because you say back in the day, I'm thinking like way back. I'm like dialing it way back. So like beyond oldies, almost like, my grandparents' era of music, kind of. And the first thing that came to mind, and it's a show tune, but it's Sinatra singing "Luck Be a Lady Tonight."
Nice.
Guys and Dolls. That, I mean, listen, I did musical theater in high school, only in high school, because we always had high school musicals. That's what we had to do. Mm-hmm. I can't carry a tune in a bucket. So I never got like a legit singing part. And if I had a part that had singing in it, it was cut. So like I got to know a lot of these things. And like, one of my high school girlfriend was like a big into theater and the whole thing. So I just got knowing all these things. And one year, like her theater group was doing Guys and Dolls. And like, I was like, I don't know anything about this. And they started singing the songs. I'm like, oh no, I know like half the soundtrack just from like hearing Sinatra do it or seeing it on like different stuff on TV. And I'm like, well, dude, no kidding. So when I hear that version with Sinatra doing it, like, and I mean, like that's, if you're going to ever watch like a movie musical version of that, that's the one to watch. But Sinatra singing that, man, he kills it. Like, I mean, he kills everything he did, but like
he does.
That one popped into my head immediately. And like, I have zero reason why it did.
When I saw this question, and again, you and I could go on for hours and hours and hours just coming up with great songs. I got the Simon and Garfunkel vibe for some reason. I don't even know why, man, but like Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, one of my favorite songs, a really good song, kind of a deep song, makes you think. And I love their harmonizing. I think the Bee Gees, probably one of those two groups, maybe the best harmonic group ever, man. Just the way they sing and they harmonize together. It's just it's amazing to see. All right, last question here. Probably a subjective one. I don't know, but are you still close to any of your childhood buddies? I ask you this for a reason when I get to mine, but that's what I wanted to leave us with today. Are you still close to like guys that guys or girls that you grew up with, at a young age?
Like we're talking like grade school, like before
grade school and high school. Like it could be as early as grade school, or we'll make the parameters as late as say you met them and became friends like in high school.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if we're talking high school, like I've like 2 of my best friends are high school buddies of mine. And
you still
one of them I lived with for like 3 or 4 years, like after we were done with college and everything.
Okay.
And like it was like him and like another buddy of ours who he works abroad now, so like we never see him. So like but like we keep in touch through like a group text and like keep up with each other, even though like one guy's like 12 hours ahead or behind or whatever the hell it is. But yeah, we stay together. Anybody from grade school though? No. Like grade school was a little more difficult for me. Um, and like there's people that I remember from back in the day and whatever, and like you're still Facebook connected, but it's like you're not hanging out with them, you're not doing
Right.
you're not confiding in them in anything. Like you're just you just like, hey, I remember you from back in the day. Like, yeah, I remember when you were like crying in class about XYZ, and I was like, yeah, cool. It was fun being 6. Like it was
Right.
like that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, just a couple of guys from like directly from my high school class. There's a few others that went to the same high school, but like everybody kind of grew up in the same neighborhood, so it was
Right.
one of those kinds of things. But yeah, there's I mean, it's not as far back as I think the question is it wants it to be, but I'm 44 now, man. Like that's pretty far back now.
Well, I got you by 6.5 years. And yeah, kind of the same for me. Childhood, grammar school and high school, like in the West Side is kind of you went to the same grammar school and high school. Almost everybody went to school together. It was kind of the same. Closer on Facebook, to your point, like you said, you reconnect with people you went to school with or lived with the neighborhood back in the day. I wish I could say I was. I wish I could say I was closer to a group of friends. In my mind, I am, but we don't do stuff. You go years without seeing these people. My friend, and I bring this up for a reason. Like my buddy, shout out Ryan Gallivan. He had a 50th birthday party this weekend, and went to KO Bar in North Buffalo. That's where he had it. Nice little dive bar, man. Pretty good wings too there, by the way. And I met up with about 6 or 7 guys that I was really close to when I was a teenager. And we all get together and we always say the same shit. It's like, let's start getting together more often. And it's like when you mean it when you say it, but then life happens, whether it's your career, whether it's your families, you're moving around, shit just always seems to come up. And before you know it, it's been 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years before you end up back together. Like I feel like I'm close to people I grew up with. I just wish I was closer and did more. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that kind of sucks. It was fun to catch up with the guys that I hung out with this weekend, but then it's also depressing because I started thinking about it. I'm like, why weren't we closer? Why didn't you always think you're going to grow up and live in the same neighborhood and then your kids are going to play together just like you did, and it never works out that way. You know what I'm saying? So that part was a little depressing, but
that's the part of adulthood that really stinks because it's like you remember the good times, you see everybody, and you're just kind of like, oh man. Remember, like, because you just pick up like it was yesterday. Like that's how it always works. That's how it's a good friendship, but like it's such a bummer. It's like, oh, I gotta go back to the grind tomorrow, and this sucks, and I'll see you. I don't know, whenever. And it does. Like you say you want to do it, but then it's everybody knows in the back of their head, like, well, I gotta go home. I got kids to take care of. I gotta do this. I got that. Blah 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 blah. Like everything else takes precedence, and it's thanks.
And it's just, and there's a time and a place like. Over the friends you've become friends with over the last 5, 7, 10 years, maybe you have a lot of memories with them. And at this point in your life, you have more in common with them, maybe than a lot of people you grew up with. But when you get together with those people and you start telling stories, no matter how, like with my wife, I love my wife to death. We've been together for over 20 years. But when I get together with these guys and we're talking about how she wasn't around. Only these people know some of the funny or bad or whatever stupid shit happened. When you're a kid, they're the only ones who can relate to what you're talking about because they're the only ones who were there who know it. You know what I mean? So you build up that equity with them. But yeah, man, I got to work on kind of getting a little bit closer to some people, at least some people. Now, some people I'm glad I got away from their ass, but there's some people out there that I grew up with that I do wish I was a little bit closer to. But anyway, all right, that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. Check out Noted Hockey. Like I said, Lance. I was going to get to Lance in a second. They'll put up a really good article today. We discussed it on the podcast. $5 per month, $50 per year, man. You cannot go wrong. This is an exciting team that fans want to read about. I mentioned Lance, of course, Joe and Lance Maintenance Day podcast, which, by the way, it dropped on Monday. We're recording this Monday, so it dropped a short time ago. So if you want some really solid hockey analysts and in-depth conversation, make sure you check that out. Plus, Joe said on Twitter, so I'm going to hold you and Lance to this. If anything significant goes down with the Sabres this week, not a Stillman trade, but if something bigger than that goes on, you can expect, we'll call it emergipod. I guess that's the term now. What we call
Yeah,
these when
that's
they.
what you've used. So we're gonna gleefully steal that from you.
All right. Anyway, make sure you check out Maintenance Day podcast with Joe and Lance. Really good stuff. Thanks as always, man. Always a good time having you. And by the way, now that you've had Imperial, you know they're good. I'll see you there. And well, I'll see you every week here. We'll see you at Imperial in a couple of weeks for sure. Take
Sign
care,
me
brother.
up, man. Yeah, be good, man. Be good. And yeah, wings and pizza, bring it on.